What if your refrigerator suddenly stopped working tomorrow? For most households, panic would set in almost immediately. Within hours, meat would thaw, spoil, and become dangerous to eat. We have built our lives around electricity and machines, trusting them with our survival. But for the Amish, this isn't a crisis at all. For them, preserving meat without refrigeration is simply a way of life, passed down for generations. Why meat preservation matters. What would happen if your refrigerator suddenly stopped working? For most people, panic would set in almost instantly. Within just a few hours, meat in the freezer would begin to thaw, spoil, and become unsafe to eat. In modern life, we rely so heavily on electricity and cold storage that it feels impossible to imagine surviving without them. Yet, for the Amish, living without refrigeration is not a disaster at all. It is simply the way life has always been. The ability to preserve meat without modern technology is more than just a clever trick. It is a matter of survival, independence, and resilience. For centuries, before freezers or iceboxes existed, families all around the world had to find ways to store their food through long winters, hot summers, and unpredictable seasons. While much of society abandoned these methods with the rise of industrial refrigeration, the Amish kept them alive, passing them down from one generation to the next. Meat, unlike grains or vegetables, is highly perishable. Without proper preservation, it can rot quickly, attract insects, or spread disease. For the Amish, who raise their own livestock and often butcher animals in bulk, the ability to make that meat last for months is absolutely essential. Preservation is not just about avoiding waste, it is about ensuring that every hard-earned resource is used wisely. This skill also reflects something deeper about Amish culture. Their way of life rejects unnecessary dependence on modern conveniences. By continuing to practice traditional food preservation, they protect themselves from power outages, economic instability, and supply shortages. In other words, they are not at the mercy of a fragile system. They have built resilience through knowledge and community traditions. For the modern world, the Amish serve as a living reminder of what we have lost. If refrigerators failed tomorrow, most households would struggle to feed themselves beyond a few days. The Amish, however, would carry on as they always have, relying on tested methods that have kept their families nourished for centuries. Salting and curing. Before freezers, iceboxes, or vacuum-sealed packages ever existed, salt was humanity's most powerful ally in food preservation. For the Amish, this method remains just as essential today as it was centuries ago. Salting and curing are more than techniques. They are traditions that keep families fed, ensure nothing goes to waste, and turn perishable meat into a long-lasting supply of nourishment. At its core, curing works because salt draws out moisture. Bacteria, which cause meat to spoil, thrive in damp environments. When salt is applied generously to the surface of meat, it creates a barrier, pulling water out and leaving behind an environment where microbes cannot survive. This simple but powerful chemistry makes it possible to store meat safely for months, even without refrigeration. In Amish households, the process begins right after butchering. The Warrens households, large cuts of pork, beef, or poultry are carefully packed in coarse salt, sometimes mixed with sugar, pepper, or other spices for flavor. The meat is layered in wooden boxes or stone crocks, covered completely so that no part is exposed to air. Over time, the salt penetrates deep into the flesh, preserving it from the inside out. For bigger cuts, like hams or shoulders, curing may take weeks. Patience is critical, because rushing the process can leave the inside vulnerable to spoilage. Some Amish families practice dry curing, where salt and spices are rubbed directly onto the meat and reapplied regularly until the cure is complete. Others prefer brining, soaking cuts in strong saltwater solutions. Both methods achieve the same goal: long-lasting, safe-to-eat meat that needs no refrigerator to survive. What sets Amish curing apart is the balance between necessity and tradition. Recipes for spice mixes or curing times are often family secrets passed down for generations. A particular blend of herbs, a pinch of brown sugar, or even the type of salt used may be unique to a single household. This transforms the act of preservation into something more personal, almost like an heirloom carried forward in every slice of meat. Cured meats also hold cultural significance. Thick slices of home-cured ham or bacon become staples in hearty Amish breakfasts, paired with eggs, bread, and fresh milk. These meals are not just about eating, they are a reminder of labor, patience, and gratitude for resources provided by the land. The very act of sitting down to cured meat connects families to the hard work of those who prepared it weeks or months earlier. For outsiders, salt may seem ordinary, but to the Amish it represents self-reliance. It proves that survival is not dependent on modern machines, but on timeless knowledge and careful hands. In a world where most of us would panic if the power went out, Amish families can calmly slice into a cured ham, confident that their food will last as long as they need it. Smoking meat. If salting and curing are the foundation of Amish meat preservation, then smoking is the crown jewel. Few techniques capture both practicality and tradition as beautifully as smoking meat. To the Amish, smoking is not just about flavor, it is about protection, longevity, and community. It transforms fresh cuts of meat into food that can last for months, even without refrigeration. Smoking works because the combination of low heat, controlled airflow, and wood smoke changes the very chemistry of meat. The heat removes moisture, which bacteria and mold need to survive, while the smoke itself acts as a natural preservative. Compounds from burning wood like phenols and formaldehyde coat the surface of the meat, discouraging spoilage and adding a unique, smoky taste that is impossible to replicate with machines. In Amish communities, smokehouses are a common sight. These small wooden or brick structures stand behind barns or kitchens, often darkened from years of use. Inside, rows of meat hang from sturdy beams, suspended above a slow-burning fire of hardwoods like hickory, oak, or applewood. The choice of wood is not random, it gives the meat its distinct character. Hickory adds boldness, applewood brings a subtle sweetness, and oak provides balance. Each family often has its own preferred mix, creating flavors passed down like a signature recipe. The process itself is patient work. Large cuts, such as hams or slabs of bacon, may hang for days or even weeks in cool smoke. Smaller cuts or sausages can be finished in a matter of hours. Some Amish prefer cold smoking, where the fire produces smoke but little heat, allowing meat to dry slowly without cooking. Others use hot smoking, which combines preservation with cooking, producing ready-to-eat food that can be stored for weeks. Smoking meat is not only practical but deeply cultural. During butchering season, neighbors often come together to prepare, cure, and hang meat in shared smokehouses. The air fills with the rich scent of wood smoke, and children run about while adults tend the fires and check the meat. For outsiders, it might seem like hard labor. For the Amish, it is a rhythm of life that ties families together and strengthens community bonds. What makes smoking especially powerful is that it adds value beyond preservation. A smoked ham or side of bacon is not just stored food, it is a delicacy, a centerpiece for family meals, and a reminder of hard work turned into abundance. Unlike store-bought cold cuts sealed in plastic, Amish smoked meat carries a story of fire, wood, patience, and skill. In a world where most people rely on artificial preservatives and industrial packaging, the Amish prove that real preservation can be simple, natural, and enduring. When the smoke curls upward from their little houses, it is more than food being preserved, it is a way of life being safeguarded against the passing of time. Drying and dehydration. Long before modern dehydrators were invented, the Amish perfected the art of drying meat. Drying, sometimes called dehydration, is one of the oldest preservation methods in human history, and it continues to serve the Amish as a reliable way to store food without electricity. The principle is simple. Remove enough water from the meat so that bacteria, mold, and other organisms cannot survive. What remains is lightweight, shelf-stable food that can last for months. The process usually begins right after butchering. Strips of meat are cut thin, seasoned lightly with salt or herbs, and then hung in areas with steady airflow. In summer, outdoor racks may be used, with the sun and wind working together to pull moisture out of the meat. During cooler months, drying often happens indoors, near warm stoves, or in specially built drying rooms. The key is consistency. Too much moisture invites spoilage, while too much heat can cook the meat instead of drying it. The most recognizable result of this process is jerky. Amish beef jerky is not the processed, sugar-laden version sold in convenience stores, but a simple, nutritious staple that reflects the flavor of the meat itself. Some families add a touch of pepper or vinegar for taste, while others prefer the natural flavor enhanced only by salt. Properly dried, these strips can be stored in jars, bags, or cloth sacks, ready to be eaten on long trips, during hard winters, or in the fields during harvest. Drying has another advantage: portability. Unlike heavy cured hams or jars of canned meat, dried strips are light and easy to carry. Farmers often keep them in their pockets while working long hours outdoors, providing a quick source of protein when meals are far away. This convenience makes dried meat an important survival food, ensuring strength and stamina during times of hard labor. For the Amish, drying is more than a method, it is a link to tradition. It reflects patience, attention to detail, and trust in natural elements like sun, air, and time. In a world where modern people rely on freezers and preservatives, the Amish remind us that sometimes the simplest tools, wind and sunlight, are all you need to preserve food for the future. Canning and jarring. Canning is one of the most important preservation methods in Amish households. While it requires more equipment and skill than drying or salting, it produces long-lasting results that can feed families through the harshest winters. By sealing meat inside airtight jars and heating them to destroy bacteria, the Amish create food supplies that can last for years without refrigeration. The process typically starts with freshly butchered meat, cut into manageable pieces. The meat is often lightly cooked or browned first, then packed tightly into glass jars. Amish families favor sturdy mason jars, which can be reused year after year. A small amount of salt may be added, not only for flavor, but also as an extra preservative. Once filled, the jars are sealed with metal lids and placed in a pressure canner. Pressure canning is essential because it raises the temperature high enough to kill harmful bacteria like botulism spores. This step is taken very seriously, and Amish families pass down precise instructions to ensure safety. After the canning process, jars are stored in cool cellars or pantries, where they can remain safe and edible for years. Canned meat is incredibly versatile. Chicken, beef, pork, and even sausage can all be preserved this way. On a cold morning, a jar of canned pork might be opened and fried with eggs. During busy harvest days, canned beef stew provides a ready-to-eat meal with little effort. The convenience is remarkable, especially when compared to modern freezers that require constant electricity. Beyond practicality, canning reflects Amish values of thrift and stewardship. Every jar represents hours of labor, from raising the animals to preparing the meat and carefully sealing the jars. Nothing is wasted, and every resource is respected. Families often gather together during canning days, turning the process into a social event filled with teamwork, laughter, and the steady rhythm of work. For many outsiders, the idea of storing meat for years without a freezer may sound impossible, but the Amish prove otherwise. With simple jars, careful technique, and dedication, they preserve not only food but also the knowledge of how to live securely without modern machines. Canning shows us that self-reliance is not about technology, but about skill, patience, and tradition. Community and shared storage. While many preservation methods can be done individually, one of the strongest aspects of Amish survival is community. Shared storage and collective effort ensure that no family is ever left without food. This spirit of cooperation transforms meat preservation from a household chore into a community tradition. After butchering season, it is common for neighbors to gather and help one another. Large animals like pigs or cows may be divided among multiple families, ensuring that every household has enough to last the winter. Smokehouses, in particular, are often shared spaces. Several families may hang their meats in the same building, taking turns tending the fires and checking on the progress. This cooperation is not only practical but also deeply cultural. By sharing labor and resources, the Amish reduce waste, spread knowledge, and strengthen social bonds. Children observe and participate, learning skills while also witnessing the value of mutual support. In times of hardship, such as illness or crop failure, this system ensures that no one is left behind. Storage spaces themselves often reflect this communal approach. Root cellars, ice houses, and smokehouses are sometimes built larger than a single family requires, designed intentionally for shared use. These structures become gathering places where work is combined with conversation, prayer, and the joy of being together. For the Amish, Community storage is more than a backup plan, it is a reflection of faith and values. They believe survival is not an individual struggle but a shared responsibility. In a modern world where independence is often prized above all else, the Amish way reminds us that true security often comes from standing together. Herbs, spices, and natural methods. Not all Amish preservation relies solely on salt, smoke, or jars. Many families also use herbs, spices, and natural methods to extend the life of meat. These additions provide subtle layers of protection while also enhancing flavor in ways that have been cherished for generations. Vinegar is one of the most common aids. Its acidity creates an environment where bacteria struggle to survive, making it ideal for marinades that double as preservation techniques. Meat soaked in vinegar and herbs may last longer, while also gaining a tangy, distinctive taste. Lard or tallow, rendered from animal fat, is another traditional method. Cooked meat can be packed tightly into crocks and sealed under a layer of fat, protecting it from air and bacteria for weeks or months. Herbs play both a practical and cultural role. Garlic, rosemary, thyme, and sage are known for their antimicrobial properties. Amish families often grow these plants in their gardens, ensuring a steady supply. When combined with salt or vinegar, they create powerful natural preservatives. The result is meat that is not only safe but also richly flavored. These methods also highlight Amish resourcefulness. Instead of buying artificial preservatives, they turn to what the land provides. Every herb or spice has a purpose, whether it is to keep insects away, fight bacteria, or simply bring comfort through taste. Generations of experimentation have refined these practices into trusted traditions. Wisdom passed down generations. For the Amish, meat preservation is more than a survival skill, it is living heritage. Each method, whether salting, smoking, or canning, carries with it the voice of generations who came before. Unlike modern recipes you might find in a book or online, these practices are taught face-to-face, in kitchens, barns, and smokehouses. The knowledge flows naturally from parent to child, strengthened through repetition and experience. In Amish culture, children learn early by watching. A young boy might help gather wood for the smokehouse fire, while a girl carefully sprinkles salt on strips of meat under her mother's guidance. These simple tasks, repeated year after year, slowly build mastery. By the time they are adults, preservation is second nature woven into the rhythm of their lives. The value of this passing down is not just practical but spiritual. The Amish see these traditions as blessings to be protected. Preserving meat is not only about feeding a family, but also about honoring God's provision and respecting the hard work of farming. Modern lessons from Amish practices. For modern audiences, Amish preservation methods may seem old-fashioned, but they offer valuable lessons for today's uncertain world. As concerns about food security, climate change, and power outages grow, the Amish way of preserving meat provides both inspiration and practical alternatives. One lesson is resilience. By relying on skills instead of machines, the Amish show that survival does not depend on electricity or complicated technology. Anyone with patience and knowledge can keep food safe using natural methods like salt, smoke, or herbs. In a society where convenience often leaves people unprepared, these skills remind us of the importance of independence. Another lesson is sustainability. Modern preservation often relies on chemicals, plastics, and constant refrigeration. The Amish, by contrast, use renewable resources: wood smoke, sunlight, natural spices, and reusable jars. Their methods demonstrate how food systems can be both effective and environmentally friendly without adding waste or pollution. Perhaps the most important lesson is simplicity. Amish practices slow life down, emphasizing mindfulness and respect for resources. Preserving meat takes time, but it also creates connection between people, between families, and between humans and nature. For many, this perspective is missing in a world obsessed with speed and instant results. The story of Amish preservation is also the story of balance between community and individuality, between nature and human effort, between tradition and survival. It is a living example that even in a high-tech age, old wisdom still has the power to guide us. As we reflect on these practices, the lesson becomes clear. True preparedness is not about stockpiling machines, but about cultivating timeless skills. The Amish show us that when the lights go out, survival is possible, not through panic, but through knowledge carried forward with care. In their simplicity lies a message for us all sometimes. The oldest ways are still the strongest.